In a previous video, I talked about the greatest common factor, and in this video, I'll talk about the least common multiple. I would say that as far as further math classes go, like Algebra 2 and beyond, the greatest common factor is much more important. The least common multiple, however, is a topic on the Pennsylvania Keystone exam, so you may run into this while you're there. So it would be good to pay attention on this video. However, if you're not someone taking that exam, you may want to skip over this part. So if we're finding the least common multiple, it's going to be sort of like the GCF, except we're looking for, so if let's say I have 3 and 5. I'm now looking for the smallest number, or the least number, that both 3 and 5 evenly go into. And some of you guys may be able to just kind of know this. Hopefully you have the number sense to see this right away. If not, we'll show you a way you can figure this out. So for 3 and 5, what I'm just going to do is list out some multiples of 3 here. So 3 times 1 is 3, 3 times 2 is 6, 3 times 3 is 9, keep going here, 12. I'm just listing out the multiples of 3, and I'll stop here at 18. And now I'm going to list them out for 5. So 5 times 1 is 5, 5 times 2 is 10, and then 5 times 3 would be 15. And you can see here, once we get to 15, they both share the multiple of 15, so 15 must be the least common multiple between 3 and 5. So 15 here would be the least common multiple, since they both have that multiple in common. We're going to do the same thing now, but we're going to look at these examples we have over here. So we've got our 12x squared and our 2x. So hopefully the first thing that you notice here for this example, if we're finding the least common multiple, is that the least common multiple for these two numbers should be 12. 2 evenly goes into 12 6 times. 12 evenly goes into 12 one time. That's the smallest number that they both go into. Now we're going to look at our x's here. Unlike the greatest common factor, we'll take the lowest exponent they have in common. In this case, we're just going to take the highest exponent for each variable. So in this case, we only have x's. The higher one is x squared, so 12x squared is going to be our least common multiple here. Now, if you're wondering why that works, what we want to do is we can check our answer by dividing each of these. So we could divide 12x squared in, and we could divide 2x in. And if I do this, I shouldn't get anything left in the denominator. I should just get things left in the numerator. So in this case, 12x squared over 12x squared is just 1. And then 12 over 2 is 6. X over x, that should be a squared, should be a 6x here. So you can see we didn't get something like 5 divided by x, or 2/5 x. It all came out to be a nice even integer for the number on the top, and then the x, there were no variables on the bottom. Okay, so 12x squared is our least common multiple here. That one should be good. Let's look at our next one, which is 8x to the 6th and 50xy squared. Oops, sorry, y to the 5th. Now, once again, we're going to look here, and if you want to pause the video and try to find the least common multiple for 8 and 50, I'll give you a second to do that. And to find these, again, the biggest number, the smallest number that these both evenly go into is going to be 200. So 200, 8 goes into 200, and 50 goes into 200 as well. Now, again, we're going to look at the x's. The higher exponent here is going to be x to the 6th. And even for the y's, even though they don't have this in common, it doesn't matter on the least common multiple. You're still going to take the higher exponent between the two, so that would be y to the 5th. So, and that should be our least common multiple. Feel free to check by dividing 8 in and dividing 50 in to see that both of these numbers will evenly go into 200, that the x to the 6th will evenly go in, and then the y to the 5th and the x and the other term will go in. And I'll leave that to you guys to check like we did the first one. All right, next we've got 9xy and 7b. And if you remember from our last video, we said that these were relatively prime, meaning they didn't have any factors in common. When that happens for the least common multiple, a shortcut is that you can just multiply these things together, because they don't really have any common factors that will be taken out. Like the 8 and the 50 both had a common factor of 2. So they both would end up having a smaller least common multiple than just multiplying the two numbers together. On this one, there are no common factors, so we're just going to multiply. So 9 times 7, again, this will give me 63. There's no common factors in here. So 63 is the smallest number they both go into. The x is just an x, the y is a y, and the b is a b. So we're going to take everything down there because there were no common variables in here, so all of them had the highest power throughout the problem. Okay, last one. We've got 51x to the 6th and 18x to the 3rd y. Okay, once again, we'll look for the smallest number that these both go into. And an alternate method for finding this is you can actually, if you find the prime factorization like we did the other day, so 51 is going to be 17 times 3, and 18 will be 6 times 3. You can treat this a little bit like your exponents. They both, none of them have a 17, so I'm going to take the 17 over. Since they both have a 3, I'm just going to cross the 1, 3 out because the 3 will end up dividing evenly into our least common multiple in both of them. And then finally, they don't both share a 6, which again, we should split that up into a 2 and a 3, not that it matters, but they both don't have an extra 2 or an extra 3, so we'll highlight these. So if we multiply this together, this should give us the smallest number that these both go into. So if I take 17 times 2 times 3, we should get 102, and I'll leave that to you guys to check that 102 is the least common multiple for these two numbers. So we got 102. Again, we'll take the highest exponent for this, which is x to the 6th, and then I'll just bring down the y. So that would be a little introduction to finding the least common multiple. Again, if you're not taking the Pennsylvania Keystone exams, you're really not going to see this too much outside of outside of this video. But if you are taking the Keystone exams, you can expect maybe a question or two on this. But again, not super helpful with all the other things that you'll end up doing in math.